Hi there! Welcome to this week's episode of Wellness Wednesday. My name's Elsie, and I'm going to be talking about tea. Drinking enough is a super simple way to help out your body. Even if you're stuck sitting at a desk working or studying all day, you can still hydrate. Now, I don't know about you, but I struggle to drink enough water, especially during the colder months. So I turn to tea to make sure I'm staying hydrated. It's a cozy hot drink, and it helps me cut down on my caffeine and sugar intake. The most common reaction I get from people is that they just don't like tea. By the end of this episode, I'm hoping I can change your mind, or at the very least, convince you to give tea a second chance. In this episode, we're going to cover 3 topics. 1, we're going to look at the tea types and the wide variety of flavors they offer. Next, we're going to look how to properly brew a cup of tea. And last of all, we're going to look at some feel-good ingredients in tea. So let's dive in. Let's start with the 2 major classifications of tea: Camellia sinensis teas and everything else. Camellia sinensis is just the scientific name for the tea plant. Teas made from the leaves of the Camellia sinensis plant are divided into 5 types based on how they're processed. There is white, green, oolong, black, and pu'er. Non-Camellia sinensis tea types include herbal, rooibos, and mate. White teas are made from young tea leaves that are minimally processed. White teas are known for their delicate and sweet flavors. They generally have light stone fruit, honey, melon, or floral notes. Did you know that green tea is the most consumed beverage in the world after water? The tea leaves are picked, dried, and immediately pan-fired or steamed to prevent oxidation. The flavor of green tea is hugely influenced by its processing. A pan-fired green tea is going to have toastier wicker or clover flavors, whereas a steamed green tea is more herbaceous. One special type of processing involves drying the tea leaves with flower petals, like jasmine, to create a fragrant and floral tasting green tea. If you've ever had orange pekoe, English breakfast, or Earl Grey, you've had black tea. Black tea is made from fully oxidized leaves. In my opinion, black teas have the widest range of flavor, mainly due to terroir, where they're grown. Darjeeling teas grow at high altitudes in the Darjeeling region of India and are famous for their musky spiciness. Golden monkey tea, grown in a few Chinese provinces, is known for having chocolate and peach flavors. And then there's honey black, which is grown on the coast of Taiwan and, as the name suggests, tastes like honey. Now we've come to my favorite tea, oolong. If green teas are only slightly oxidized and black teas are fully oxidized, oolongs fall somewhere in between. The tea leaves also undergo rolling, which results in oolong's hallmark ball shape and leads to a unique property of the tea. The leaves can be re-steeped quite a few times. The theory is that the ball unfurls a little more during each steep, creating different flavor profiles. Oolong flavors are generally full-bodied and can be floral, stone fruit, and toasty. And our last Camellia sinensis tea of the day is pu'er. Pu'er leaves are fermented. Some leaves ferment for a few months, others for several years, giving the tea deep, earthy, and smoky flavors. So these are your basic Camellia sinensis teas: white, green, oolong, black, and pu'er. While explaining the tea types, I mentioned something called oxidation. But what is that? Oxidation occurs when tea leaves are exposed to air in order to dry and darken them. It's why green tea, a minimally oxidized tea, still appears green, whereas black tea, which is fully oxidized, is quite black. Oxidation changes the chemical composition of the leaves, producing flavors, and every student's best friend, caffeine. As you can see, the more oxidized a tea, the more caffeine it contains. There's a myth out there that a cup of tea contains more caffeine than a cup of coffee. This is absolutely not true. A cup of coffee has 2 to 4 times the caffeine found in a cup of even the strongest black tea. Speaking of caffeine, I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to naturally decaffeinate your tea at home. First step, get your tea leaves all ready to go. Then, add your hot water. You don't need to fill your cup completely full. Quarter to halfway is fine. Now you're going to wait about 10 seconds. Caffeine diffuses very quickly from the tea leaf. So if I dump out the first few seconds of steeped tea, you'll be getting rid of most of the caffeine. After that, you can fill the cup back up with new hot water, and you're good to enjoy your naturally, mostly decaffeinated tea. Before we move on, it's important to know that Camellia sinensis teas don't have to be plain. They can be mixed with other ingredients for different flavors and benefits. For example, this is a white tea with peach, a green tea with apple pieces and popcorn, a black tea with peppermint leaves and candy cane, and a pu'er with coffee beans. I even have a tea that's a mix of both oolong and pu'er, mixed with eleuthero root, ginger, and orange peel. These teas barely even taste like tea anymore. There are a bunch of really fun flavor combinations out there, so if you're new to tea or don't particularly love tea, I recommend trying out a tea blend. There really is something for everyone. But that's enough from Camellia sinensis. Let's explore our other tea types. Let's recall the 3 teas that don't belong to the Camellia sinensis family: rooibos, mate, and herbal. Starting with rooibos. Rooibos means red bush and is made from a plant that grows in South Africa. There are 2 types of rooibos, red and green. Red is made from fully oxidized leaves. Green is unoxidized. The rooibos plant does not contain caffeine, and so your tea won't either. As you can see, rooibos has a wide array of flavors. Personally, I notice its vanilla and red berry notes the most. Mate, or yerba mate, originates from South America. It does contain caffeine, and it's touted for its energizing effects without the jitters or crashes associated with coffee. Mate can be brewed on its own, but it pairs well with fruity flavors and ginger. Last but certainly not least are the herbal teas. These teas are made up of basically everything else: herbs, spices, flowers, nuts, dried fruits, roots, grains, the list goes on and on. Without Camellia sinensis or mate, these teas have no caffeine. So that's it for our types of teas. Next, we're going to look at how to make these teas. The first step to making tea: gather your equipment. I've got my cup and my tea. If you're using loose leaf tea like me, you're going to need something to steep the tea in. Something like a steeper or an empty tea bag. For the steeper, it goes in your cup, add your tea, and you're ready for water. Tea bag is very easy as well. Just add your tea to the bag, close it up, and put it in the cup. If you don't want the hassle of loose leaf, there's nothing wrong with a pre-packed tea bag. You all know how to use it. It goes in the cup, you're ready to go. Now you're ready to add the last 2 ingredients: water and thyme. Thyme and water are the biggest factors in making or breaking a cup of tea. If the water is too hot, or if the leaves steep too long, you're going to get a tea that's gross and bitter. Let's start with water temperature. If you take away only one thing from this episode, please let it be that boiling water is way too hot and will burn your tea. White, green, and oolong are our most delicate leaves, so it makes sense that they need lower water temperatures, between 60 and 85 degrees. For everything else, you want your water slightly cooler than 100 degrees. Some kettles have the option for you to select your desired temperature, and I know some die-hard tea drinkers who use a thermometer to check their water temp before brewing. I'm not that fancy. I simply boil my kettle, and once it's done, I let it sit for a few minutes to cool down. About 2 to 5 minutes for the hot water teas, and 5 to 10 minutes for the whites, greens, and oolongs. Now let's look at steeping time. One important caveat is that steep time is hugely dependent on the particular tea you have before you. The numbers here are guidelines to get you started. A tea that tastes weak could maybe be steeped longer. A tea that is bitter or astringent should definitely be steeped less. You might have to do a little experimentation. Again, we see that our most delicate teas are going to be steeped for the shortest amount of time. The more robust the leaf, the longer you can steep it. For our non-Camellia sinensis teas, you can usually steep for as long as you want because there's no tea leaf to go bitter. I love a super strong peppermint tea, so I leave my bag in the entire time. It's really just a matter of personal preference. Do you remember one of the unique characteristics of oolongs? Because the leaves are rolled into balls, they can be re-steeped. Whether or not you're re-steeping is going to influence your steeping time. If I'm planning to reuse my lees, I'm going to limit my first steep to around 3 minutes. My second steep might be closer to 4 to 5, and any steep after that is going to be 7 minutes. If I don't want to re-steep my leaves, I might leave my first steep in for about 5 to 7 minutes. Now that you've mastered hot tea, it's time to take it to the next level with iced tea. The key to making a good iced tea is to make it extra concentrated. So you want to use twice the tea leaves that you normally would for a hot tea. Be sure to use hot water. Most teas won't brew properly with cold. You might find you need longer steeping times. This is especially true for herbal and fruity teas. When it comes to our Camellia sinensis teas, you might have to play around a little. Remember, they could get bitter. So you're making a pitcher of iced tea at home. You've doubled up your tea bags, you've filled your jug with hot water, and the tea has been steeping for about 10 minutes. You decide you want a glass of tea right now. So you fill a glass with ice, pour the hot tea over it, and now it tastes weak. It's important to remember to include ice into your total water volume. If you want to make an iced tea to drink right away, fill your container only halfway with hot water, and then top it off with ice when the lees have finished steeping. Don't forget to get creative with your tea. Add any sweeteners, fruit, or fresh herbs that you want. My go-to iced tea recipe uses green tea, lime, mint, and cucumber. Tea is a very personal experience. Have fun with it. For ages, teas have been made to treat and cure thousands of ailments. Have these curative properties been studied and proven? No. This is a list of ingredients found in teas that are commonly believed to have wellness benefits. The way I see it is if they actually work, great. If not, then I still got a hot cup of tasty tea. Just the fact that you've gotten up from your desk and taken a break, hydrated a little, maybe cut out one sugary drink or coffee from your daily routine, is going to be doing your body some good. I've grouped some ingredients by their commonly associated benefits. Some you might know, some you might not. I'm not going to go over every single ingredient, so feel free to pause the video if you want a longer look. You probably recognize lavender and chamomile as common relaxing ingredients. I even have a pouch of lavender that lives under my pillow for a little calming bedtime aromatherapy. It's no surprise that mint and ginger are listed under digestive aids. And as for energizing, caffeine and refreshing flavors are the way to go. Thanks for stopping by this week's edition of Wellness Wednesdays. Remember to follow Student Council on Instagram and the Student Success Network on Facebook to keep up to date with news and events. Stay safe out there. Wash your hands, wear a mask, practice social distancing, and most importantly, be kind to yourself. Steep on steeping and have a tea-rific week.